Candy inflation. Horrifyingly expensive candy has Americans scared this Halloween. Inflation has helped push price of Skittles up 42% and Starburst 35%, but Hershey's hasn't raised cost of its famous bar since June. Hey, props to you, Hershey's. With inflation continuing under President Joe Biden, even the price of Halloween candy looks to be goldish with a week to spare before the holiday. With price increases that would give consumers a cavity before they even take a bite. Amid a cost of living squeeze that experts say has people turning to junk food, prices of individual candies are soaring, with Mars Skittles up a whopping 42% and Starburst 35% according to Data Assembly. Crunch Bars and Butterfingers have made more modest price hikes of 7 and 6% respectively. The average candy bar cost has surged 13% according to the Labor Department. Only Hershey appears to have been immune from the spooky prices, not having changed the cost for a chocolate bar since inflation began to set in. The total bill has Americans spending a total of $10.6 billion on Halloween candy for 2022, according to the National Retail Foundation. For comparison, Americans spent $10.1 billion last year. Amid a cost of living squeeze that experts say has people turning to junk food, prices of individual candies are soaring, with Skittles up a whopping 42% and Starburst, 35%. Let's see. While overall candy sales went down during the pandemic in 2020 to just $8 billion, the cost is still a huge leap from candy spending prior to COVID-19. Candy sales averaged about $8.9 billion from 2017 to 2019, with a peak of $9.1 billion. During 2017, sales decreased each year former President Donald Trump was in office. All sides of the aisle seem to agree inflation has been a disaster, with even Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont criticizing the price hikes. Sanders tweeted last week while the cost of Halloween candy has surged more than 13.1% since last September, the Mars candy bar family became 44% richer during the pandemic, increasing their wealth by $32.6 billion. The Mars family is now worth $106.8 billion. Do you know what's scary? Corporate greed. Have Americans say runaway inflation and high living costs are taking a toll on their health as millions turn to drink, junk food, and smoking more as worries mount over electricity and gas bills this winter. Research at Toluna, a consumer insights firm, found that 50% of those surveyed were feeling their health suffer as a result of the cost of living crisis, with inflation currently running above 8% according to the Consumer Price Index. Among them, 37% said they were feeling more stressed, 21% said they were eating less healthily, 16% said they were smoking more, and 13% were boozing more often. The survey of 1,000 people comes as inflation, crime, and immigration are at the front of voters' minds ahead of the November 8 midterm elections, which will decide whether Republicans or Democrats control Congress. So the cost of living takes toll on health of Americans. 37%, actually no, let's say this. 50% say the cost of living is impacting their health. 37% say feeling more stressed, 21% eating less healthily, 16% smoking more, 13% drinking more alcohol. 74% are concerned with the cost of electricity and gas, 23% extremely concerned, and 21% very concerned. And basically, when asked, is the rising cost of living impacting your spending plans, 65% agree, 10% disagree. And let's see, what would you be willing to forego to save money? 37% eating out, 23% ordering a takeout, and 21% buying cheaper alternatives. Interesting. So, a projection by Bloomberg this week said the U.S. economy was 100% likely to plunge into recession within the next year, although we're technically already in a recession. As we move further into the cost of living crisis, the impact of it is starting to show, said Matt Booth, a researcher on the survey. It's affecting everything from our personal health to how we plan our grocery shopping and where we're cutting back to save money. Nearly three-quarters of Americans said they were worried about the rising cost of electricity and gas, the poll showed. As consumers face steep increases in prices, heating oil, propane, and other fuels in the coming colder months. Nearly two-thirds of those surveyed said the energy crisis and the rising cost of living were affecting their spending plans. Let's see. Best rated. Let's see. Aside from horrible inflation, a lot of companies are just price gouging on top of it. Don't need it. Remember this when you're in the voting booth. I was shocked at the prices of the candy. Another sad story. Hershey discontinued Cinnamon Jolly Ranchers. They are now on eBay for $135 for 3 bags. We live in an area where hundreds of people come to trick or treat. It takes at least 8 Costco sized candy bags, otherwise, we are turning the lights off early. I hate spending so much on junk candy each year, but don't see an alternative unless we don't participate. Us too, we started buying bags as soon as they came out to spread out the cost. Who knows if next year we will be able to afford it? It was hard enough this year to make it happen. Interesting. Feel free to give your thoughts on this. The thing is, just be careful about how much money you spend, right? Because here's the thing, you don't need to go like balls to the wall in terms of like Halloween spending for candy or whatever if you do that sort of stuff, right? Just get cheap candy. Like, for the most part, no one's really going to care, right? As to what candy you end up serving people if you go and do that sort of thing, if you celebrate Halloween or whatever.